Thank you so much. It's nice to be back up here. We feel no pressure about talking about this topic whatsoever. It's so good to see everybody here. My name is Christopher Williams, and I am the managing director of Capacity Interactive. Oh, I was like, oh, you're getting a good reaction. I am the managing director of Capacity Interactive. I am a white person in my 50s, and I am wearing a navy blazer and green performance pants and white sneakers, and I use he, him pronouns. And I'm so delighted to be here with you today, along with my co-presenters. We will be with you for a long time. If you need to get up and use the bathroom, please do. It's a long presentation. Okay, so nearly a year ago at a leadership retreat, my very good colleague, Yosef Cohen, pulled me aside, as he sometimes does, and said, hey, have you seen this cool new thing called ChatGPT? And indeed, I had not seen it, and I didn't really understand at all what I was looking at. But undeterred, I went back to my hotel room later that night, and I created an account, and I logged in, and I began to experiment. We were coming up on our holiday break at CI, and so I prompted ChatGPT to write an out-of-office message in the style of The Night Before Christmas. And to my great surprise, it did it. And I was super excited. So I phoned up my best friend, Amber, and we have been childhood best friends forever, and we are both marketers. We both sell tickets. She's in sports, and I'm in the arts, of course. And I said, hey, have you seen this cool new thing called ChatGPT that my colleague just showed me? And I showed her how I was able to prompt it to write a post about the WNBA. Now, if you know me, sports or anything in the neighborhood of sports is not really in my wheelhouse. So she was sort of impressed that it could do this for me. And we said to ourselves in this moment, we're like, is this going to be a thing? And so little did we know that AI would go on to dominate the headlines for the next year. And in fact, OpenAI's ChatGPT went on to set adoption records. It took Netflix 40 months to reach 1 million users, and it took ChatGPT 5 days. It took the internet 4 years to reach 100 million users, and ChatGPT did it in 2 months. And today, ChatGPT receives over 1.5 billion monthly website visits. It's quite staggering. So as you've heard from other speakers, and probably at other conferences at this point, generative AI is here. And ChatGPT is not alone. Google has launched Bard, as you heard previously today. Meta and Microsoft have launched Llama, and Anthropic has created Claude. And of course, that's just to name a few. And of course, as others have said, AI is not new to us. Predictive AI and machine learning have literally been around for decades. For us as users, and before that, it was in the laboratories for decades. So we're all very accustomed to using this every single day, and we absolutely depend on it. Now, predictive AI, just as a review, is what we use in digital marketing. This is what we use to evaluate audiences and consumer behavior. It's when we tell you we're going to serve the right content to the right audience at the right time, it's predictive AI that helps us do that. Predictive AI is the technology that we use to optimize campaigns for those users who are most likely to convert. And it's how Amazon knows what inventory to keep nearby my home because it's what I'm most likely to order. It's how Bank of America can predict fraudulent activity on my checking account. Now, machine learning, those are the algorithms that we use to analyze data and trends. And machine learning is what powers recommendation systems, and we all love them. These are the things that tell us what we're going to watch next on Netflix. It tells us, if you're a reader and you've just bought a book, it's going to tell you what you should read next. For me, it's what helps me never run out of dog food. But this is technology that we're all very accustomed to using, and it's very integrated into all the tech that we already use. It is generative AI in the last 11 months that has captured all of the attention. Gen AI focuses on the creation of new material, and it can create things like blogs and stories and poetry. It can create really realistic images and music and even video. And Gen AI can power virtual assistants and chatbots and bring them seemingly to real life. In our session today, my colleagues and I could really speak for hours about all the things that we're exploring using AI, and we're particularly excited about AI, and we're curious to learn more about all of the ways that it can help us be smarter and be way more productive and increase room for more creativity in our day-to-day. This is boot camp after all, so my co-presenters are going to go deep into the weeds of their subject matter, but before we get to them, I think it is so important for us to spend some time together right now framing this moment and really marking this moment of change in time. So, technology is changing, and the pace of this particular change is utterly breathtaking. The way consumers interact is also going to change. As a marketer, consumer behavior and changes in consumer behavior have always been something that ignites my own curiosity. And Gen AI has the ability to transform knowledge and creative work, and that change is profound. Gen AI is moving us from the age of information to the age of intelligence. The internet gave us access to information like books and articles and encyclopedias, and it changed the way that we live, work, and buy. And now Gen AI is giving us access to intelligence. And once again, the way that we live, work, and buy is going to change. And the core of this shift is going from acquiring information to acting on intelligence. And for arts marketers, I think the most intelligent way that we can use intelligence is to drive connection with audiences and visitors. So if AI has the ability to increase our productivity, then it creates an open space for us. And we're left with an opportunity, a major opportunity, to double down on the time that we spend connecting with audiences on a human level. To illustrate the power of using intelligence to drive human connection and to remind us all as marketers what we get in return when we spend our time that way, we're going to have a little story time. So I worry about the planet a lot. I'm sure that some of you do too. Everywhere I look in the news, I feel like I see stories about extreme weather. When I look out the windows of my Connecticut home, sometimes I now see a dystopian-colored sky from wildfire smoke. And it can make me feel quite hopeless and scared about the future, but it also really motivates me to want to do something. Now, I know it is hard to change the world, but I am a big believer that as human beings, we can change the world directly around us, and I wanted to do something more to change the planet. So ever since I was a little boy, I've had a small obsession with solar energy. And even my junior high science project was a little solar house that I built, because I was like a childhood lesbian. And now I'm a grown-up, and I have a house, and I want to generate and consume my own electricity, and I wanted to put solar panels on my house. So, as any homeowner in the audience can tell you, the hardest part about a home improvement project is finding the right partner to help you do it. Am I right? So I found who I thought was right. They had great reviews on their website, and they had wonderful, transparent, free information on their website. So I called them up, and a very nice woman named Gretel answered the phone. And I said very frenetically, I'm not ready to buy, I just have a lot of questions. And she very calmly said, no worries, I'll pair you up with the building scientist, and you can ask her all of your questions. So she set me up with a woman named Jaya, who spent a very patient hour with me, listening and answering all of my nerdy and novice solar questions. And she had a sort of passion about climate activism that really matched mine, which I enjoyed. And when we were done, I really expected her to go right into like pitching me to buy, but she didn't. She just said, it's been really fun spending time with you. Let me know what other questions come up for you. Have a great weekend. So the following Monday, I called Gretel back and I said, pushed me forward in the process, and she hooked me up with the solar energy consultant at her company. His name was Bart. I liked him right away. And he surprised me in our conversation by asking me what my objectives were. And he engaged me in a long conversation about what I wanted to achieve with my solar energy project. And it was a stimulating conversation. And after gaining a full understanding of my needs, I expected him too to start putting the sales pressure on me, but instead he applied something altogether different: friction. And he explained to me how complicated it is to add solar to your house, and the process goes on for months, and was I ready for that? And I really appreciated that the man who's really there to sell me actually was being real with me and transparent, and I gave him a lot of bonus points for that. So ultimately, I was ready to continue moving on in the process, and he sent engineers to my house, and ultimately came back to me, and he presented a design of my solar array, what it would look like on my house, of course, how much it would cost. And he did something really valuable at this stage, which was to tie everything back to what my objective was, which was simply to do something good for the planet. And he explained it to me in ways that any average American climate activist can understand. It would be the equivalent of planting 168 trees every year. It would be the equivalent of charging my cell phone 102,000 times a month. Anyway, as a solar nerd, I was ready to go. I said, sign me up, get them on my house. And you might speculate that at this point when I started to convert, that all the high quality human attention that I was being paid would come to an end. But it didn't. Bart and Gretel actually stayed in the journey with me, and they created a text thread between the three of us where they would often send me updates that ended in exclamation points, which, if you know me, is kind of my love language. When I first started working for Eric Gensler, he was like, you might want to tone it down with the exclamation points. Anyway, so once the panels are up in your house, you can't just turn them on right away. There's a lot of bureaucratic milestones that you have to go through, and I am a classic Gen Xer, and I like immediate gratification, and this was frustrating to me, and Bart and Gretel were still in the text thread, like sharing in my frustration, and really just reassuring me that everything was normal and just to hang in there. So this past July, I received 2 text messages from them, and the second one was from Bart, and it said, energize. And he had previously told me that when he sent me that text message, I could run outside and flip on the switch that would allow me to start using all of the electricity that my panels were creating. And for me, this was a very big moment and so exciting. Now, over the next few weeks after that, I still heard from them. They would check in with me frequently, asking me, like, are you pleased? Do you need help with the app? Is this everything that you hoped for? And it was everything that I hoped for, and more. They didn't just sell me solar, they used intelligence to connect with me. What they got in return was a huge fan, a brand champion. And you can ask anyone in my life, including some of you, I have not stopped talking about this company and this experience, including on my client calls. It's amazing. So I know you're thinking, thank you for the lovely solar anecdote. What does this have to do with AI? Companies who drive connection grow 5 times more than the average company. And companies who connect consistently through the customer journey drive 19% more growth. And isn't growth everything that we've been trying to accomplish since the pandemic? Customer connection drives growth, and whether you adopt AI as an assistant or a brainstorming partner or a copywriter or a data analyst, AI will help us be more productive, and it will give us the ability to be freed from the mundane, give us back more time to drive deeper and more meaningful connections with our patrons, to be more human, helping us all turn more of our visitors and audiences into brand champions. So, I have a couple of questions. Raise your hand if, like me, you were a person whose career in this business started before we had computerized ticketing, meaning, did you sell hard tickets? Hands up. Anybody? So like a few people. Okay, great. Raise your hand if you once sat in an audience like this and heard someone tell you to turn into a media company and start making content. Raise your hands if you fall into that group. a larger group of you. Raise your hands if you once sat in this audience and you were told to how important it was to build a mobile ticketing path that people would transact on their mobile devices, if you've ever heard that. Okay, great. Congratulations. We did that. We did all those things. And if you'll think back on those moments of time, we were a little speculative at various points in various ways. That was digital transformation. And digital transformation, gang, it's behind us. We did it. Gen AI is creating a new inflection point. And customer journeys are going to change from how they discover and consider our offerings to how they purchase and participate in the art that we create. So, as arts organizations, just like with digital transformation, we won't be exempt from these changes in consumer behavior and expectation. I was at the Inbound Marketing Conference this past September in Boston with about 11,000 other marketers, and at almost every session, AI was part of the discussion. And amongst all the tech talk at that conference, I heard a really fascinating presentation by HubSpot CEO Yamini Rangan, who actually really inspired what I wanted to try to share with you today. And she described the ways the customer journey and expectations are changing as a result of AI and will change as a result of AI. And I want to share some of that with you now. As marketers, we recognize the customer journey. Customers discover, consider, buy, and experience everything we have to offer. So what's changing? Let's start with discover. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, these are all platforms that are powered by AI machine algorithms, and they deliver to us engaging and relevant videos every single day, and we can't get enough of them. And they deliver those to us where we spend the most time, on social. Consumers are increasingly discovering new products and new things to do before they ever start to search for them. Let me do a little circus trick here for you. Does anyone know what this is? Just out of curiosity. Is it just me? Oh, someone raised their hand. I see one person. This is a white shoe eraser. So I don't know if you notice my shoes, but they're quite white and like unmarred, right? So I never knew I needed this until I discovered it by watching user-generated content videos on the For You feed of TikTok. So just to illustrate what I mean by this, 44% of consumers use social as their primary source for discovering. I was trying to give it to somebody. It's there for you if somebody wants to crawl down there. 44% of consumers use social as their primary source for discovering new products and things to do. Currently, 21% of the population is Gen Z. They're only slightly smaller than their millennial predecessors, and they are our youngest patrons and future audiences. And they rely heavily on social media for shopping ideas and discovering new products and things to do. 61% say that they trust influencers and brands are us, right, more than family and friends for recommendations. And that's a really big change. In the consideration phase, how consumers learn about us is going from clicks to conversations. Here's what I mean. So someone discovers your institution right now and they want to learn more about you. They head to your website where we as marketers have laid out tons of great information for them, and they have to click, filter, and sort through everything that we have to offer to figure out what they want. Is that time consuming? I don't know, maybe. Is it inefficient? Probably in a world of Gen AI, because in the new world of that, people are going to want a one-to-one conversation, meaning, let's say your arts organization offers a lot of classes, dance, singing, acting classes, and instead of going to your website and parsing through all of that information myself, I might simply go to something like ChatGPT and explain to ChatGPT what my needs are and ask it to summarize relevant classes and send me the recommendations. In the new consideration, we don't want to convert, we want to converse. In the purchase phase, consumers are already expecting personal insights. Our patrons have given us so much information across so many different channels, and they're going to expect us to use intelligence to take that context across all the interactions that they've had with us and bring those insights every time we connect with them. Personalized is templated. Hello, first name isn't gonna be good enough anymore. Personal is tailored. And consumers will expect insights that are specific to them. So, if you know me, I can only sit on aisle seats. I have claustrophobia. It's a personal limitation that I'm working on, but I can only sit on an aisle seat. So imagine the power of me receiving a message like this. I'm a ballet person, so Christopher, one of your favorite programs is Friday night. We have great aisle seats available. So how will expectations change after the purchase? Our patrons will come to know and expect that we have AI because it will exist everywhere else for them as consumers. And they'll know that means that we have the intelligence and insights to proactively delight them. 98% of customers find service interactions frustrating. So let's think about ways we use intelligence right now after the purchase. So most of us have ticket scanners at the door. We're able to use a ticket scanner to immediately, you could hand me, Christopher, a ticket scanner and I could stand there and I could scan in someone and realize that that person is a donor and I could thank them for their support. I can do the same thing by using the ticket scanner to recognize that someone is new to file and I could provide them a special welcome or gift. So imagine the possibilities that AI will create for us by giving us the ability to use proactive action to make our audiences feel seen and understood. AI isn't just changing the technology landscape. It's going to dramatically change the expectations of our patrons, and even if our organizations are not in the business of AI as consumers, we will be, and we'll expect AI-enhanced experiences. One professor at Harvard Business School says it's not just about technology. In fact, it's 70% about organizational change. So one thing is certain, change and change management skill are no longer optional for the modern organization. There is no playbook for AI in arts marketing, ticketing, and fundraising. We're here early, we're all paying attention, and it's all evolving so fast. So consider this moment marked in time. The status quo is not an option. We will have to evolve to connect with our audiences, and AI is going to give us the time, space, and fuel to do it. Thanks. Okay, buckle up, here we go. Today, through my co-presenters, we're gonna see where AI already plays a role in our work, and hopefully we'll be inspired to see what's possible for us to experiment with when we are back at our desks on Monday. So let's start with what's possible in generative AI by going on a tour of one arts marketer's quest to build things with ChatGPT that she never thought possible. And for that, please welcome Kayla Gale from the LA Phil.
So hi, I'm Kayla Gale. I'm the senior digital producer at the LA Phil. I use she, her pronouns, and I am a 5'2" white woman with long brown hair. Today, I'm wearing a black and white striped top, black pants, and smoking loafers. I will tell you a little bit more about me later, but for now, the LA Phil.
Imagine a world in the not-so-distant future where art and technology merge like never before. Where your previous purchases help bring you the entertainment you enjoy. Where the best of all things come directly to you.
Tonight's concert is a beautiful arrangement of a work of music that hasn't been performed in the United States in over 10 years.
This is the future of the LA Phil.
Is it though? I love that video, and not because of the future, but because of the past. I found it in a Dropbox folder named No Longer in Use, and no one could tell me when or why it was made, but to me, it is a hidden gem that epitomizes the type of organization that the LA Phil is. A type of organization that is unafraid to embrace technology and ask, what if? An organization that is unafraid of change. And perhaps that's why we've been around for 104 years. And this attitude, this forward-thinking embrace goes back to our very beginning, when in 1925, just 6 years after being established, the LA Phil was the first major US orchestra to broadcast an entire full-length symphony on the radio, or so the story goes. And while technology has always been top of mind for the LA Phil, it wasn't always for me. Like probably a lot of you, I got into the arts for the art. In fact, while writing my bio today, which was way harder than anything I'm about to show you, I went back and forth about whether to include the line, Kayla has a Bachelor's of Fine Arts from NYU's Tisch School of the Arts. And ultimately I cut it because I thought, who cares? It wasn't that really relevant to what I do. And then I thought about it some more, and I realized it was incredibly relevant to what I do. And not just to what I do, to what each of us do. Why? Creativity. The ability to be creative has always been a big part of what separates humans from machines. Creativity is at the center of what we do as arts organizations and as arts marketers. It is the stuff we are really good at. Simply put, we are idea people, and this is what excites me so much about AI, because suddenly we are able to execute our ideas like never before. And that's what I'm here to talk to you about today, how I had an idea and how by using ChatGPT, I was able to turn it into a reality, and how you can do the same. But first, 2 quick things. Though I dabble in code and work with developers, I don't consider myself one. I want you to keep this in mind as we go through some of the more technical portions of today's presentation. Remember, I have a BFA. A BFA in theater specifically, which gets me to the second thing. Up until a few months ago, I had no idea how to pronounce Shostakovich. Before working at the LA Phil, I had only ever worked at theaters, and I might have even told you that I wasn't really a classical music person. However, in the past 1.5 years that I've worked here, I've had the opportunity to discover there is classical music I like, and quite a lot of it. And so I wondered, can AI help people like me learn to love classical music? And could ChatGPT help me do it? And it turns out the answer is yes. Here's a sneak peek at the website I built, which we will get into, and I mean like really into. But first, I want to go through a few fundamentals, like what does GPT stand for, and how does it work? So to answer these questions, it seemed only fitting to go to the source, so I pulled out my iPhone, opened the ChatGPT app, and proceeded to have a chat, like literally.
GPT, or Generative Pre-trained Transformer, is a type of artificial intelligence model designed to understand and generate human-like text based on the information it's been trained on. Think of it like a computer program that can have a text conversation with you.
Okay, so now that you've heard firsthand from ChatGPT, I want to outline a few terms, like what is a prompt? A prompt is a question or statement designed to elicit a specific response or action from the machine. So an example of a prompt might be to define a prompt for 5th graders. And it might say, a prompt for 5th graders is a question or statement that makes them think. So you might say, no, explain what a prompt is. The person you are defining this for knows very little about AI, and it would tell you, oh yeah, a prompt is like a question or instruction you give to someone, asking them to provide an answer or to perform a task. In the context of AI, it's a message or input we give to the machine, hoping for a specific response or action. And that was prompt engineering, which is the practice of designing and refining prompts to elicit better, more specific responses. See, I didn't actually want to know anything having to do with 5th graders. I wanted a simple definition of a prompt. And the next thing I want to talk about is a hallucination. So a hallucination is when AI makes stuff up and then tries to pass it off as true. Now, while there are many hallucination haters, I see opportunity. See, one weekend in May, I was engaging ChatGPT in a lively discussion about the most innovative organizations in classical music. And unsurprisingly, the LA Phil was one of the answers. And so I pushed for examples on why, and it told me 2 truths and a lie. But it was a really good lie that led me to wonder, what if? What if for next season, our street banners and billboards did have some sort of AR element, just like ChatGPT said we had already done? Could we remind people of the feeling of sitting under the stars on a summer's night, watching fireworks at the Hollywood Bowl, and inspire them to make a ticket purchase? Now, I haven't actually told people that at work yet, so we'll see how it goes. And this last definition doesn't really have so much to do with ChatGPT. Well, I guess it sort of does, but you will see. So that's an API. An API, or application programming interface, allows systems to kind of talk to each other and exchange information, whether that's like data or content. And whenever you've signed in with Google or paid with Apple Pay, it's probably because of an API. Okay, so now the thing we are really here for, which is how I turned my idea into a reality. Well, when I first set out to build a website with ChatGPT, I had an entirely different concept in mind. We were celebrating the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney Concert Hall, and I thought, well, what better way to celebrate the past than with something that's shaping the future? And then this led to me getting a little metaphysical and thinking about the nature of time. And I pictured myself sitting in the concert hall 20 years earlier. What would I be listening to? And that gave me an idea. We are celebrating the 20th anniversary of Walt Disney Concert Hall, and we'll build a This Day in History type website. Almost like an interactive time capsule, the website will randomly display a piece of music that was played on that day sometime in the past 20 years. And from there, it rapidly spit out a lot of intimidating code, so I said, let's back up a bit. You're gonna need to walk me through a bit slower. And then I tried a lot. And I failed a lot. And in that, I learned a lot. See, this is an actual screenshot of my many, many, many attempts, but eventually I was able to get it to work. Using ChatGPT, I managed to go from a Node.js novice to standing up a server and creating my own API in just over a week. And I didn't just have an API, no, I had a whole prototype of a website. But something about it left me wanting. It was fine. It was mostly a novelty, though, and it didn't really serve any greater user need or purpose. It was kind of like how Coca-Cola created a flavor with AI. It just wasn't anything anyone needed. So I knew I could come up with something better, and that's when the website I showed you earlier comes in. And though I knew I wanted to build something to bridge the connection between people's favorite artists and classical music, I wasn't quite sure what that was going to be yet. It was simply an idea. So I started with a really broad prompt, and I asked, what would I need to build a Spotify app that recommends classical music based on artists I like? And then I went on a bit of a journey, and well, bit might be somewhat of an understatement. Each time I'd receive a response from ChatGPT with code, I'd drop it into Glitch, which was the platform I was using for web hosting. When I'd inevitably get an error, I'd copy the results from the console, paste them back into ChatGPT to get an explanation, and it was created this kind of cycle of continuous feedback. Oh, that clarifies things, it said in response, and unfortunately, it very much did not clarify things. And after one too many tries, I decided to take a different approach and start a new chat session. While it may seem counterintuitive to basically start over, ChatGPT and other large language models have a conversational memory. This means they take into account your previous interactions when generating responses. So by starting over, you are ensuring that none of your false starts derail your next. So taking what I learned from my not-so-successful last attempt, I refined the prompt to be more specific. In my last attempt, ChatGPT kept urging me to use OAuth, and in retrospect, this makes sense because I hadn't told it otherwise. I hadn't provided the context that, since I'm more dabbler than developer, I wanted to stay far away from accessing anyone's data, and instead was totally fine with just having the user type in the name of an artist. So I incorporated that into the prompt. Help build a web app that allows a user to input their favorite artist via a text input, and from that, we will generate a list of classical music suggestions they might like, and we will also explain why these recommendations are similar. And I then said where I wanted to host it, which was Glitch, what language to use, Node.js, and again, by all means, not to use OAuth. And then lastly, I also said the text input and response from the API should accept lowercase and uppercase entries. Now, I never actually ran into errors with that part, but I was feeling feisty and it generally seemed like a good idea, so I figured, yeah, why not? And though this last iteration was a considerable step forward, generating a list of songs and comparing their valence, a word I have never heard used outside of Spotify or my 10th grade chemistry class, was not going to make anyone love, or frankly, even like classical music. No, I needed something simpler, something easy to use and even easier to understand, something that would connect the dots for people. And that's when I realized that, like a bad rom-com line, the answer had been in front of me the whole time. Not only could I use ChatGPT to generate the code, I could use it to generate the recommendations. And so I iterated again, using everything I had learned in my previous attempts to build one incredibly specific and highly detailed prompt. It was an idea. I started off the prompt by providing ChatGPT with instructions outlining the specific task that I wanted it to undertake, in this case, to help me code a website. And now often you'll find people combine instructions with role, saying something like, you are an award-winning developer tasked with helping to build a website. And while I have tried that method, I haven't really found it to be successful, and frankly, it also just makes me feel silly. Next, I define the goal and purpose. Create a website that provides classical music recommendations based on popular artists. I also established constraints, and though the name might be somewhat misleading, constraints aren't always negative. Here, most of the constraints are telling ChatGPT which tools to use, so the Spotify Web API, OpenAI's API, and Glitch. The exception is OAuth. I very much did not want to use that, and so I included it just in case ChatGPT decided to pull a fast one. If you're already using ChatGPT, you're probably using constraints without even realizing it, anytime you mention response length, tone, or even audience. And last, but definitely not least, I outlined the approach and methodology. I outlined exactly how I wanted the technical portions of the website to work. This part came easy because it's what I do in my day-to-day at the LA Phil. And so just as things were moving forward, I got a snag. I hit an error, and error getting recommendations. So, like before, I took the code from the console, fed it back into ChatGPT, where it told me you might need to use a different function. And when that function didn't work, it told me to check the documentation. And when I checked the documentation, there was a whole different method. And at this point, I felt a little like this. Yeah. I probably looked at the chat history upwards of 20 times, trying to decipher completion.create from create chat completion, from chat completions.create, and I was also pretty sure ChatGPT was changing the code on me. Yeah, and that's because it was. If you're using the free version of ChatGPT, it's important to know that the model is only trained on data through September 2021. ChatGPT was changing the code because it had no knowledge of that newer API method. So once I had wormed my way out of that web, I was back on track. In less than a day, I had built a working site. But as I kept playing around with different artist submissions, I noticed that ChatGPT's view of classical music was very limited, almost like my own when I started at the LA Phil. Stravinsky, Beethoven, Bach. It also kept trying to push Claire de Lune on me every single time. If I wanted to capture the attention of top-of-funnel audiences and challenge preconceived notions of what classical music can be, I needed a less myopic composer makeup. And so I started thinking again. I wondered, given that ChatGPT has a conversational memory, could I trick it into thinking it had already made suggestions in the hope of better shaping the results? And this tricking is actually a technique known as few-shot prompting. Essentially, you're trying to shape the direction of the response by providing it with additional context. So, as part of the revised prompt, I paired some of my favorite contemporary classical composers and music groups with artists across genres. I said for the artist Bon Iver, you recommended composers Bryce Dessner, So Percussion, Justin Vernon, S. Carey, the piece Music for Wooden Strings. For Kanye West, you recommended Isomonstrosity, Danny Brown, 645 AR, Johan Lennox, and the piece Careful What You Wish For. For Daft Punk, you recommended composer Holly Herndon and the piece Eternal. You should all listen to that one, it's really good. And while I toyed around with including even more recommendations, it didn't really change the recommendation quality. But it definitely changed the cost, since billing is based on tokens, which is essentially like words. And I wanted to be as efficient as possible, and not just because I had put it on my personal credit card. And going back to my original goal, to draw a direct connection between someone's favorite artists and classical music, I made sure to incorporate the artist's name in the description. It needed to be personal and relevant. So, using the same artists as before, I got better results. Ones which didn't, thankfully, include Claire de Lune. So at this point, I was like all in on the AI, and I made it my personal mission to incorporate ChatGPT in as many ways as possible throughout the site, because like, why have two when you can have three? And because we are also all sometimes walking contradictions, I did what I normally don't and gave ChatGPT a role. I said, you are a UX copywriter working on a website that uses AI to suggest classical music based on a person's favorite artists. Come up with alternatives for, enter 3 of your favorite artists and let AI recommend classical music. And the results were kind of dull, but I kept working until I got to from pop to Bach. Enter 3 artists to start your classical journey. And for some reason, my response was that it wasn't a perfect rhyme, but a near rhyme, and so I wasn't interested. Ever since ChatGPT came out, I have been weirdly fixated on the idea of poetry and rhyming. Yeah, I once asked it 8 times to write a non-rhyming poem, and it just couldn't. It's something I have found deeply comforting. The ability to be creative has always been a big part of what separates humans from machines. Ultimately, what made the site work was ChatGPT, but what made the site successful were deeply human things like curiosity, creativity, and the capacity for self-reflection. When Bernard Marr talks about creativity, I don't think he's strictly talking about creative output. He's also talking about creative thought. Being creative means using one's abilities to find innovative solutions to particular problems or needs. So while I identified the problem and the need, ChatGPT helped me create the solution. A website, rocktobock.glitch.me if you want to visit, that allows you to input your favorite artists, and from that, generates classical music recommendations. Ones you can even listen to on the spot. Here's one of my favorite pieces that, well, I'd like to tell you I learned about from the website. In truth, I had actually already knew. I guess maybe I am more of a classical music person than I thought. And finally, a few words on how you too can start using AI. The first step is just to start. When you get back to your desk on Monday, sign up for a ChatGPT account if you don't already have one. It's literally that simple. You can do it on your phone right now. The second step is to embrace experimentation. Find out what AI is really good at and maybe not so good at, like poetry. Success only comes from experimentation and iteration. So do, fail, learn, repeat, and be patient. And finally, one last piece of advice, not from me, but from ChatGPT. When asked, how can arts marketers use AI? Here's the final thing it had to say.
Remember, while ChatGPT can be a valuable tool, it's essential to maintain a human touch, especially in the arts. Combining the strengths of both can lead to a successful marketing strategy.
Thank you.
So much labor went into that presentation, if you couldn't tell. Okay, in a recent survey, consumers were already reporting interest in AI as part of the customer experience. Specifically, 50% of Gen Z, 43% of millennials signal their interest in AI to resolve customer service issues. So here to tell us what's new in AI-powered chat tools from BROADWai AI, please welcome Micah Hollingworth.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm going to try to follow that. My goodness. I'm happy to share with you some information about, we'll call them virtual assistants, because chatbot is typically a bad word, right? And how they're really useful right now, in particular in our new on-demand world, right? But first, so my name's Micah Hollingworth. My pronouns are he, him, his. I'm 6'2" white with graying hair and glasses. I'd prefer to describe myself as skinny, but entering my 50s, it's probably aspirational at this point in time, right? I'm thrilled to be back here at boot camp. Some of you may know, I last presented here to this group in 2019, and it was actually on this very topic. So safe to say a lot has happened since then. My primary experience prior to forming Broadway AI was commercial theater, specifically Broadway. Get it? Right? Terrible. While I'm an entrepreneur, I'm also a husband and a father to 2 teenagers, and that additional information should be helpful as we go along with the level of humor you're going to see here. So I was at a concert at Joe's Pub last week. It just so happened the last time I was there was literally the day before the shutdown. It was completely surreal. For all of us, the world changed literally overnight. Prior to the pandemic, the world that we're living in now, or re-emerging into, all the signs were there of the technology that is now prevalent, right? Machine learning and AI were already in use, especially by the group in this room. There were fewer phone calls, more texting. Slack, which is essentially texting at work, is now the thing, right? The seeds of on-demand consumer expectations were already there, whether it was Netflix or Amazon Prime. And there was already some adoption of chat tools, but yes, it was clumsy, right? So what happened? November last year, OpenAI releases ChatGPT. The hype, the potential, everything you hear, you have heard, it's real. It's a very, very powerful tool. We can now make very sophisticated, multiple intent queries that can be handled by AI, like, I'd like a ticket package that includes VIP room access and parking. And do you have a coat room, and can I bring an umbrella, right? And the AI can interpret a multi-intent query and respond appropriately. While the focus and immediately hyped use cases of chat, the advances of this expand beyond that for voice, as well as fully enabled AI agents that can be provided to complete a multi-step task to complete from beginning to end. But don't be worried, right? This isn't gonna take over the world or put us out of jobs yet, right? These large language models are just giant prediction machines, right? It's the immense processing power that allows their predictions to be so accurate. The scale simply it's too big to comprehend. So while they can process more data than a single person ever could, I would argue that they're not conscious, nor are they intelligent. I mean, is consciousness math? Right? This technology will be very quickly interwoven into every aspect of life, right? Like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth. For this room, what's a simple, immediate, and quickly impactful way you can use this technology, right? Customer, patron, guest services. As your box office or guest services team will tell you, they are answering the same question multiple times every day. That's why you build FAQ pages. That's why you do know before you go email campaigns. Your most common questions can be immediately and clearly answered. This is going to reduce 70 to 80% of your inbound traffic. The chat agents themselves are available 24/7, 365. They can be deployed anywhere digitally. And depending upon the platform, they provide really robust insights for what the customers are asking, right? They're also, using that word again from earlier today, very nimble, right? 2 weeks ago, maybe it was 3, we had the weather emergency here in the city where they declared a state of emergency due to the rain and the flooding. We were able to update chat almost instantaneously so that inbound questions from patrons about, I can't get there, what's your refund exchange policy, are you performing tonight? You're able to quickly provide that information and deal with a crush of inbound questions. So you've heard about ChatGPT. How many of you have actually given it a try? Or Bard? Raise your hands. Oh, that's awesome. Great. So as was just said, if you haven't already, go to OpenAI, create a free account, start to experiment with it. If you're going to do a Google query, stop. Ask ChatGPT first, or vice versa. Compare the results, compare the experience in terms of what you were looking for in engaging with both. Quick and easy things that you can immediately test out, right? You provide some initial marketing copy, give me 5 different taglines for it. Redraft an email. It can be to be warmer or more professional. Provide ChatGPT your FAQs and ask it to simplify and streamline them. Pro tip, as again just described, you want to define ChatGPT's role when you're working with it. You've heard about prompt engineering. Before you ask your question, identify that role. So as you see here in a really simple prompt, right? You're a customer service agent for the Magic Theater. Our mission is to make the impossible possible. Please respond to the following question, keeping our mission in mind as maintaining an always pleasant and informal demeanor, right? Remember, or another pro tip here, don't provide ChatGPT or any of these other public platforms private or confidential information. Once you upload it into the platform, it's in the platform, and it's going to use it elsewhere. So you're interested in testing out this idea, right? How do you start? First, just as you do every day within your organization, consider the audience, your user. Are they the single ticket buyer? Is it a subscriber? Where are they communicating with you? Is it on the phone? Is it website, email? Is it via Facebook? Second, confirm what you want to share, the information. You all have an FAQ section on your website. In reviewing the FAQs, talk to your team. What is driving the greatest volume of inbound questions? What questions do each individual team themselves answer the most? And then make sure you consider how you're going to measure the success here. You have a plan on who you're communicating with and the content you want to provide. Improving customer service, decreasing hold times, fewer emails, improved staff morale, increasing conversions. Think through how you're going to measure for success. And do everything you can, especially as you start. Just keep it simple. Don't overthink it or over-engineer it. So you've got the beginnings of a plan, right? Perhaps even a teammate or two who's interested in working this project with you. Where to start? First, do any of your existing vendors already provide this service, right? Zendesk, Salesforce, FreshChat, Google, just name a few. They all provide this service already. You may have this available to you access-wise today. Don't have an immediate connection? There's a new AI vendor announcing every 15 minutes, right? Most at very low cost, like ChatGPT, TARS, FlowXO. The list is almost endless. I'm going to provide a resource guide at the end with a list of vendors and some additional information I think is helpful when you're trying to figure out how to start. Pro tip here. I would urge you to strongly consider working with a vendor that both has an AI and live chat integrated solution. Personally, for me, nothing's more frustrating than seeing a chat feature that I want to engage in and get some assistance with, and it's immediately asking me for an email address, and then it says, we'll email you back, right? That's not what you want. If you want to generate the most impact, having that combined feature will generate the most value for the organization and your guests. Why? Because there's always going to be a percentage of your users, no matter what, who would prefer to speak with a live person versus an automated chat. Having this or providing this in the same channel gives you the best opportunity for that user to continue using that channel in the future, thus allowing you the maximum value for the organization. So great. You've got a vendor, you've started the process, and you stood up your chat. Now you test. Test internally, and be sure to include your public-facing employees. You're going to learn a lot from your internal QA team, and it's really a fun process. Keep your testing focused and stick to your intended audience and content when testing. Focus on the customer service inquiries and ensuring the information provided is accurate and matches your intent. Only when you're confident with that part of the process do you then broaden your focus to start to throw in the questions that perhaps you or those above you on your team are concerned about, right? trying to anticipate users asking questions like, which political candidate do you support? Or how much governmental funding did you receive last year, right? Starting to anticipate that, but don't start there because that's gonna be a roadblock to actually getting up and operating. What you wanna watch out for in that process, you want your vendor to clearly state to you what the guardrails are that they've put around the chat. This can be included in your prompt instruction and will eliminate a lot of the concerns I just shared with you there if you've set it up ahead of time. So privacy, security, and hallucinations. I am not an expert on those particular topics as they relate to AI, and I caution you for anyone who represents being an expert, especially on the security piece. That being said, in general, if you're not capturing PII information in chat, your privacy exposure is very limited. Make sure your vendor provides you with their privacy policies and their terms and conditions so that you can review in combination with yours. Pro tip here, consider an acknowledgement of some kind of your privacy policy or your terms and conditions in order for the chat user to then continue the conversation. That can be a checkbox, that can be a quick acknowledgement of the policies, but that is a good way to start. Remember, another piece here, you want to be clear with your chat whether it is open to the web or closed, meaning it can only respond with the information you provide it. Most LLMs, like ChatGPT, are built to search the web. It's important, and if you can, you want to work in a closed environment, as that's what's going to greatly reduce or eliminate hallucinations, right? You want the chat to respond on your behalf. I'm sorry, I don't have that information, versus, oh, well, let me go outside and see what I can get for you. So early results that we're seeing for some of our clients, for one, they turned on chat with live escalations. Phone calls went down 25% immediately, right? The users quickly adopted an AI chat with live escalation built in. This one, to me, was a bit of a surprise, but then, of course, it makes perfect sense. Team morale was reported to significantly improve. One large phone room stated that their team was, by removing those common, simple questions that they had to answer every day, improved morale because then they had the ability to spend more time with customers that had more complicated issues, right? Providing a connection and resolution in a way that both the fan and the phone agent felt good about. Anywhere between 46, right? And for one client, almost 70% of inbound queries came in after traditional work hours, right? So it's that on-demand mentality that we live in now. So takeaways for you to consider. On-demand is an expectation now. What you've heard about the power and sophistication of LLMs and conversational AI is true. Experimentation with the platforms is key. Do it. Gain familiarity and confidence with working with them. So then review internal options to provide you with the beginnings of this service. It's likely that you have a vendor that can give you some. Determine and clearly define your test case, even if it's internal, and stand it up, right? If it's just for your team, it's safe. Stand it up, test it, get feedback from your team. And then deploy and look for feedback from the users so that they can guide you for your future next steps that are going to be of most benefit to you and to them. So it's easy to get overwhelmed. There's a new story, platform, vendor every day, right? Behind the QR code, there's a resource guide, right? Like, will provide you information on chat vendors, more information about larger platforms and a couple of email newsletters that I find really helpful, and some further, very brief reading, I promise, on AI, LLMs, and the state of the technology in general. I'll be continuing to add to this over in time. So I'm interested to hear from any of you if you have additional suggestions that you would add to the guide. Thank you for the time today. Go experiment with it.
Everybody got that picture? Okay. Earlier, I reminded us that AI isn't new, and marketers and consumers have been using predictive AI and machine learning for years To see how it's evolving and what opportunities present for us, please welcome from CI, Ali Gomez.
Thank you. Oh, I hear myself. Okay, well, good afternoon, everyone. I know you're bearing with us through this very extended block, and we're so grateful for your time and attention. My name is Ali Gomez. I use she, her pronouns. I'm a white female in my 30s with dark blonde hair, and today I am wearing a vertically striped jumpsuit. I live in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am literally so jazzed to be back on this stage today. The last time I was here, I was representing Cincinnati Playhouse in the Park, where I worked for the better part of a decade in several roles, including the Associate Director of Marketing. Most of that time actually was spent as a client of Capacity Interactive. You'll see my picture with my team from CI at the time. And I really got to know so much about the ins and outs of what this organization does, all from the other side of the table where many of you all might sit. In 2021, I joined CI full-time, and I worked remotely from Cincinnati with my adorable assistant, Miles. And since this photo was taken, my son has grown up quite a lot. He's 2.5 now. And I've learned a ton about the back end of digital marketing, including taking a deep dive into AI and machine learning in Meta specifically. Now, as we've heard many times, AI did not happen, especially in Meta, overnight. This has actually been a foundational part of their app since 2006. And it powers so many parts of the platform, including the ads areas that you all utilize to advertise your shows and sell tickets for what is coming next at your venues. These tools have definitely gotten better since 2006, and they're definitely delivering better results as well. And since we started using Meta, it's really gone from a more static space in terms of landscape to one that's very nimble, our favorite word, and automated. So how does AI and machine learning work in paid advertising on Meta at its core? Well, you have a budget. Meta asks you for what your goal is for that budget. Then it applies AI and machine learning to direct your budget to deliver you that goal. Now, this is very, very stripped down. And for us, often our goal is leads or sales in our industry. But we can also add in guardrails around these sort of simplified parts, if you will. And we often do, but ultimately the platform takes this bullseye as our #1 goal and a directional instruction with what to do next using their AI and machine learning. So this is the basics. Now, Meta has developed more tools over time, right? These used to really exist in the backside, areas we weren't really tinkering with, and over the years they've come more forward and into the foreground for us to play with as marketers. Specifically right now, there's a lot of these tools and content, and that's what we're going to get to talk about today. And while I'm mostly here to talk about Meta, I'll also add that this is definitely happening on Google, TikTok, all the other platforms too, so this baseline should just help you holistically. All right, to talk about Meta's current AI tools, I'm going to hit you with an arts metaphor. I would like you to think of all these tools as the different sections of an orchestra. Alone, they play with excellence and sound very beautiful, but together they make something that is exponentially more effective than the sum of its parts. The more you're able to test and lean into some of these full suite of tools, the more that the machine learning and AI in Meta can really bring you a full symphony effect in your results, which is obviously what we're all aiming for here. And remember, you are the conductor. That's my favorite part of this analogy. Meta has more tools available than we will cover today, because they really are quite a lot, but several categories they all fall into are listed here. There's budget, creative, shopping, placement, destination, and today we're going to focus on creative and placement. And why are we focusing on these two right now? Here's why. The best practices for how content is inputted into Meta, as in like what you all want in there going into the platform, and how it's then served out to your audiences is changing, and these shifts aren't really going away. So we need to talk about them and consider their implications. All right, with these two buckets, creative and placement, there's going to be 4 tools, I know lots of numbers, 4 tools that we're gonna talk about today. We'll start with some easier to toggle on options in our symphony analogy. These are ways you can add just one section to your options. And then we'll work our way up to a more full symphony example. All right, the first section, Advantage plus Creative. This is an AI and machine learning tool in Meta where it takes your original ad, your original post, and it applies optimizations to the images and video to enhance performance. So what does this look like? This is an example from Brick Arts Media, and you'll notice that it's going to scroll through several options that we can toggle on from your Advantage Plus Creative. This could include zooming in and out, allowing the platform to do that on your behalf, adding in templates, text combinations, so like moving your text around a little bit, shifting your brightness and contrast, putting your relevant comments first. A lot of you will probably know that things tend to be in chronological order, so this is allowing them to put like the best comment at the top. Applying image filters, sometimes music, sometimes animation, so it'll just keep scrolling through while I continue talking on this topic, but you can look at that while I chat. This view is actually in Meta's Creative Hub, so this is a tool for prepping and visualizing dark posts. Those are the posts that don't appear in your timeline that are specifically meant to be ads. You can pick and choose, like I said, your different types of Advantage Plus Creative options here, and they are gonna be different depending on what type of post you're using. But if you don't use Creative Hub, don't worry, you still have access to these options as well as previews in Ads Manager, and that works whether you go in or you have an agency partner that does that on your behalf. You can just communicate about what feels best for that post. Like I said, there are little different options depending on what you're looking at. So for a carousel post, there's also the ability to add a profile end card or switch the cards around to put the best performing one first as opposed to going chronologically or whatever your goal there might have been. But overall, these are really small changes to your ad that could have a huge impact on performance. And I can feel all the Tape A people in the room starting to panic because I am one, so just please hold on and we'll talk all about how we let go of control with like grace soon. Okay, so why is this so important? Meta saw that there was a 14% more incremental purchases per dollar spent on ads that were using these tools. Advantage Plus Creative Standard enhancements. So this isn't nothing. Even if you choose to toggle on one just to try it out, this is a baby step you can take towards allowing this automation to help your results. On to the next section of our orchestra, Advantage Plus placements. This is all about showing up where your audience is at any given moment. For example, I might scroll through stories today, but maybe tomorrow I'm at work and I only check my Facebook desktop. I'm not staying in one place to access Meta, so your ad shouldn't be stuck in one place to find me. Finding me whenever possible is key. All right, what does this look like? This used to be just a few placements that were available on Meta, but over the years it's grown significantly. It increases the number of people who can see your ad, it improves your results at no extra cost. We're just toggling this on to your pre-existing budget. And you can insert your content once and just let it use that for all of the various placements, or you can customize for different types, like the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame has in this example. They used Advantage Plus placements to promote their exhibit and merch collection celebrating 50 years of hip hop. And you'll notice that, well, maybe it's coming back. You'll notice there were different sizes of video plopped in there as well. Now, everyone, again, I have a disclaimer. Do not, please, start customizing 22 different placement options. That is not what I'm asking you to do. I am asking you to do far less, not far more. So what I am suggesting is that usually a square option will work great in all of these placements, or many of them, if you allow it to. If you're ready for like a 2.0 level, you could do a square option cut, a vertical cut, and a horizontal cut just to make sure you kind of covered all your bases. But again, that's not 100% necessary for this tool to do its great work. All right, another key reason to turn this feature on is that the top performing placements can change. They can change campaign to campaign, month to month. This is all evolving very quickly. And pre-selecting your placements is actually cutting you off from your opportunities. In this example, Cincinnati Opera found out this past season that the right column placement, which like if you open your desktop view and there's like some little ads on the right along with some other buttons, that's what we're talking about. They found that this was a top performer and we'd all previously been suppressing it for their campaigns. So that's just something we wouldn't have learned if we hadn't turned on these Advantage Plus placements. 8 out of the 27 activated placements used in their season actually were attributed with purchases, and the right column post was one of them. Again, fun to see that surprise, and we're so glad we didn't cut that opportunity off by changing or pre-selecting our placements. All right, the next section of the orchestra, multiple text options. These are casually called dynamic text ads or DTAs at capacity, so you may have heard those swung around interchangeably. This is an amazing tool that lets you take the power of one ad and multiply it by adding up to 5 headlines, 5 primary text options, and 5 descriptions. Multiple text options in Meta are built a lot like responsive search ads in Google in the sense that they take your copy points and they mix and match them to learn what works best. So if you're familiar with that concept, it might help you frame your mind on this. A quick tip too is if you have a responsive search ad on the same topic running, you could probably do a quick adaptation of those and go ahead and test your first multiple text option in Meta on that same show too. Here's a quick example from Portland Center Stage. Just to see what this looks like. You'll notice that the visual remains the same. I will point out the video is not playing on the left, it is playing on the right. It's the same video, everybody. But you'll notice that the copy options mix and match, and then they'll also mix and match through the different headlines. What's great about this is every time someone is served one of these ads, Meta can learn from it and figure out which combinations are performing for which type of person and really exponentially increase those results based on their knowledge. Now, let's take it one step further. If you're ready to engage with a more full symphony effect, dynamic ads are probably for you. Sometimes we call them fully dynamic ads at CI. These automatically turn on all the other content automations as well, though you can remove certain placements if desired. I really don't recommend it. It's not how to really capitalize on the use of this tool. These will help you use most of Meta's up-to-date AI tools and get your ads served to each person in the best place, format, and content combination possible. All right. If you're familiar with Google's responsive display ads, or RDAs, this works in a very similar fashion. You input assets, up to 5 of each copy point, up to 5 buttons, as well as up to 10 visuals, and they can be video or photo, so we can mix and match here. And from there, the AI and machine learning in Meta will experiment with tons of versions, I mean like a lot of versions of your ad, using one of each asset type at a time, all crafted from your input. So when I say this is really dynamic, I'm not saying that Meta is going in and like rewriting your copy and like totally changing what you've input. You're putting in the suite of assets that you're interested in it using and the suite of copy, and then it's reformatting and experimenting from there. From an input perspective, it might look something like this example from American Conservatory Theaters' Broadway-bound production of Hippest Trip. There'll be several images, text options, and again, I said those buttons are pretty fun. I also want to point out to you in this example, they didn't feel pressured to use all 5. I don't want you to take this as like a directive that you have to write a ton all the time or overuse every single time, but that's what you have to play with, and it's okay to start even if you just have 2 ready. From that input, audiences are going to experience something like this. You'll notice that the visuals are changing first, and then start to see some of the copy points change in the headlines. But ultimately, one ad, this is one ad, but it looks like all of these. And in that one ad, Meta is able to consolidate those learnings, that AI and machine learning, and really direct that ad in ways that it really, truly couldn't have before. This is all about delivering your best assets and then letting Meta do the rest. The result is a myriad of ads being served all at once to lots of different types of people, as I've already said. But here's a visualization tool for how you can help communicate this with your coworkers or just try to digest it yourself. In this preview example, you can scroll through on the right, similar to potentially previews y'all have used with static ads. And it will just shuffle different variations of what you might see as a user. Additionally, there's a little refresh button next to the bug that will also keep you in the same placement and show you a different combination of what might show up in that placement. There's so many great benefits to shifting to this type of social media advertising or to adding it on to what you already do. Oh, can I have some help? Can we go back one? Technical problems. Did we do it? Oh no, we went forward. Thank you. Okay, now you got a preview of TED. Okay, so this is great because it decreases content fatigue, frequency issues, the number of posts you have to build. Is anyone excited to do slightly less work? And therefore your workload. Okay, there's caveats. I know you're all thinking of a million questions. I'm gonna get to it, I promise. In doing this, we're also increasing optimization and customization for your customers. We're providing them a different experience than we did before. If you were promoting one post for a month before, that's the post they saw over and over again for however long you left it up, right? And then we had that anxiety, like, oh, now we gotta change the post. This is changing your timeline because it is offering your customers a different experience using one ad. It's also increasing that machine learning. It's allowing that to get implemented. It's giving you more opportunities for strategic messaging. If you had one post before, you now have several pieces of copy. You can try different angles. And hopefully, it's increasing your results. Couple of caveats. We're gonna take a deep breath, and it will all work out, even though I blew my thunder. This is gonna decrease control and proof visibility, and I know that's giving everyone some knots in their shoulders right now. But like, we're gonna talk about it some more. It does. You have to release a little control. It's gonna increase the number of assets you have to deliver at the top of a campaign. So we are gonna be delivering more assets all at once, but again, that's gonna be a good thing ultimately, and I'll talk to you more about it. You can also only run a single dynamic ad in any given audience or ad set. And so in the past where we would like swap a post or maybe run two posts side by side, you're really thinking about your dynamic ad as its own entity, and you can swap in content or swap out copy from it, but it is its own like consistent thing. It also doesn't show up on your timeline. So like if you are a group that often uses timeline posts and tries to sort of smush that together with your paid advertising, this is gonna kind of divorce those if you try to implement this tool. Okay, we've got some theoreticals. But Allie, approvals are already really difficult around here, and I know they are. I've absolutely been there, and it can be really, really hard if you need a lot of people to approve your content ideas. I feel like we talked about this really deeply yesterday in our Changemaker panel. You know, there are just so many artists and people who care deeply and passionately about how their art is represented through your office, and the folks in your office care very deeply too. But I just want to encourage everyone to think about this a little differently. So you're getting more out of this than just one post, and something to remember is that getting the perfect thing approved can often be harder than getting a full set of things approved. Because to get everyone to agree to one sentence is actually much harder than to get them to agree that within 5 sentences or copy options, you've represented their point and the point you want to make and the other point that the group has been discussing. So there is this sense of like releasing perfectionism and, you know, also remembering that what resonates with you isn't what resonates with you, and your audiences are built that way too. So having these multiple messages out there are connecting with different types of people in your audience all at the same time, in the same way that like someone in your office thinks this post is gonna work and someone else doesn't, right? That's the audience too. So just encourage people that you're talking to about this, if and when you make this shift, that their favorite option is gonna be included and so is yours, and we're gonna let AI and machine learning serve out the best messages the most often and to folks who it will resonate with. All right, new one. But Allie, it's not me. It's important. Insert important person here gets really concerned if they can't find our ads. And while you cannot look at them and say, girl, listen, you can explain to them that our advertising budgets are meant for sales, not PR, and that the best way to get ads in front of our audiences is to go to them in the best way that we can do that and not to ask them to come to us. So again, I'm not trying to tell you shouldn't have timeline posts or you shouldn't promote them ever, but I'm saying if the fight here is whether or not this tool is worth trying out, that's really what I would say back for that. Or, and this is honestly a really great option, consider posting some variations of your dark posts as timeline posts if you really need to give someone a findable link. All right, we've talked about some of these tools and their benefits. Now let's discuss some tips for how you can conduct your Meta AI symphony like a pro. As we increase the number of assets we're using in any given campaign, we should really be using those assets strategically. Why? Because when creative is too similar, Meta's system may reach the same audiences repeatedly. And for those of us interested in reaching new audiences, this can be a really big hurdle, and I know that's all of us. Meta found that differentiating their creative generates 9% average increase in incremental reach. You are reaching 9% incrementally more people. They found a 32% average increase in cost efficiency as well when the creative was differentiated. Now, what is differentiated creative, you might ask? This is an example, again, from Portland Center Stage, and it was actually crafted in batches through a content partnership with Capacity Interactive Cecily Moore, who's our manager for content strategy and creation. She partnered with the Portland Center Stage team to really intentionally utilize these extra copy points. Because they refresh less often, or they can refresh less often, we really do want to be thoughtful with the input we put in. We can't say the same thing over and over again with small tweaks or just like add one emoji and really think that helps. A true variation does matter. I know this isn't easy. You know, it's a lot more brainstorming. You may have come up with one post copy in the past, and now I'm asking you for 5 all at once, but this preparation really does pay off. Back at the Playhouse, I had a writer that worked with us, and they were tasked with writing the key messages at the top of the season. And we actually got those approved early in the season and used them all year to ensure that those messages appeared as often as possible and as strategically as possible in the marketing. And the other great thing was everyone approved those messages. So when I did have to go back for approvals again, it was like, remember, you agreed about this, we talked about this topic, here's how this relates to that. And of course, I couldn't use that tone, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, so also, if you use ChatGPT or Meta's inspirational tools, remember this is a first draft, and you should definitely still edit from there. Even Meta has stated that generative AI eases creative fatigue, but there's still room to customize for your brand's voice and your messaging needs. The human element matters. Portland Center Stage's use of this tool had stellar results, with 58% of their purchases attributed to just the 2 ads that included multiple text options when the majority of ads in the campaign were static. So almost more than half went to these. In this example of a fully dynamic ad from Ballet Arizona, you're gonna see a spectrum of visual differentiation. Now, because they had 10 assets available for their Nutcracker campaign and a dynamic ad, a fully dynamic ad, I'm only showing you 4 right now, but there were 10. They were actually able to include a few less differentiated visuals just to see which one was outperforming the other or which one resonated more with folks. Then they were able to really include some strongly differentiated. You know, we're seeing a visual difference here from photo to photo that feels striking enough that it might catch someone in a feed. This really lets Meta's algorithm do its best work to maximize reach and learn from different combinations. Again, if you only include maybe like 3 visuals in your dynamic ad, I would not recommend they be super similar. I would recommend they be very different, but if you're gonna use all 10, figure out how you wanna play with those. One more pro tip, don't forget to stay social. This shift in ad structure does not mean sales vibes only. Please stay current and fun whenever possible, and as we always say, and I feel like was touched on really great yesterday, your ordinary is your audience's extraordinary, so continue to lean into it. Please continue to make videos and photos that look native in different placements, just don't force them to only show up in those placements. And this works great, like this example from American Ballet Theater, where they really got down with some user-generated content and got to interview folks. Remember, research from Impact's experience, from Colleen, who we heard from the other day, it shows that what other people say about you is 12.85 times more effective than what you say about yourself. So this is the opportunity to amplify the voices of your biggest fans. All right, we're rounding the corner. All right, you might be asking, what's next? Here's what's coming to an account near you. And oh, I will say we were lucky at Capacity Interactive to get this preview. It is now public, but we got it a little early thanks to our partners at Meta who are here today, and we're just so grateful. So clap really loud for me at the end so they think I'm smart. Okay, so we're gonna talk about the things that are coming next. One is image expansion. In the past, I am sure you have seen that your maybe square ad could be used as a story with like a black background or something like that. Now we're talking about AI image expansion, where the AI can just figure out what your photo would have looked like if it had more photo in it. Then we've got background generation, where there is a center feature of your photo, and Meta can actually help you figure out what else could go behind it. And then from there, we're gonna get text variations. And these are, you start off inputting a single text idea. Maybe that's the one post you're used to writing. And then you're gonna get some suggestions for various options of how you might connect with the audience on the same topic and add additional multiple text options there. Again, these are inspirational tools from the text side. These are not all available today, but they are coming out soon, so definitely keep your eye on it. And I do believe it's happening on a rolling basis, so maybe your account has them already. Tell me if it does. Okay, Everything we've just talked about is about what's inside Meta, and you can turn these on in your existing campaigns with your existing budgets as soon as you get back to your desk, because I am sure that's how it's going to roll out for everybody. But what else are we experimenting with? Well, it's the wild west of plugins these days. And what is a plugin? We're going to think of this as a guest conductor in our symphony, right? At our Meta AI symphony. Software as a service companies, or SaaS, are finding ways to work in and around Meta, even in the arts and culture sector. So you really want to be on the lookout for these tools. They do cost extra money to manage or access, so they're a great option when you have additional budget and you're ready to try something new. Remember that with any new tool, strategy is still key, so consider plugging into CI when you do test your plugins. One software as a service, or SaaS, that we have been testing lately is called Future Demand. It connects with databases like Tessitura to analyze your purchase history and upcoming show info. And instead of retargeting, it's actually building interest-based audiences and generating AI copy for you to review, similar to what we were discussing before. From there, it actually builds hundreds of ads, hundreds of static ads. It's a very hardwired approach to dynamic ad creation in Meta. And from there, it publishes directly to Meta and any other platforms that you've synced up there. We did our first test with Cincinnati Opera this past summer, and we put their full Meta budget for the summer into Future Demand. Their interest-only audience saw increased efficiency compared to standard ads in the prior year. And the results were even more impressive for the 7-day click, 1-day view attribution window, which is shorter time period than the 28-28 I just showed you. And while this was only our first test, one reason this might be that I'm hypothesizing is that when you give simultaneous messages and ads to people at the same time, it might help move them through their purchase path a little quicker than just seeing that same message over and over again for a week or however long you were running a single ad. San Francisco Opera is also in testing with Future Demand as well, and we're very curious to see how this tool grows. I have some key takeaways, and then I'll be out of your hair. Okay. So please consider using some more of Meta's AI Symphony as you conduct this coming season. I really think that it's time for us all to explore, experiment. That's been the theme all week, but please try these out. When you do, and even if you don't, remember variety and strategy are key. Using creative differentiation here is going to help your results no matter what when you go home. Also, please stay tuned for new tools. They are becoming available in Meta on a rolling basis, and consider if a plugin might make sense for you. Finally, I've got one more. If you take nothing else away from my talk today, please take away this. What you are doing in Meta advertising right now, it's working. It's fine. But we can't employ a philosophy of if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's not where we're at right now. The status quo is not an option anymore, and what you've done in the past might be working, but it's not going to be enough as we keep going forward. These AI and machine learning tools are getting better every day, and the opportunity cost of not experimenting and using them is growing by the minute. So please make this the moment that you choose to believe in what some of these tools might be able to do for you, and take the next step when you get back to your desks next week. Thank you so much for your time.
Ever since ChatGPT hit the market, one of the most frequent questions that I've been asked is how generative AI is going to impact the world of search. So here to explore this new world is the captain of our search ship at CI. Please welcome to the stage, you know her, you love her, Madeline Frischella.
Thank you, thank you. I'm here to talk to you today about the extremely sexy topic of AI and search. My name is Madeline Frischella. I'm a senior consultant at CI focused on search marketing. If you work with me, you probably know me as Madge. Yes, I am the Madge that Luca referenced earlier. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a white woman in my 30s with dark brown hair, glasses, wearing a smocked black dress, chunky heeled boots, both black, and some pink hoop earrings like a cottagecore witch who just saw Barbie. I mean, Here at CI, we all like to say we're nerds for data. People have stood on the stage, called themselves nerds, thrown around the word nerd a lot this weekend. But I'm about to out myself. I'm an actual nerd. I'm the biggest kind of nerd. I am a Star Trek nerd. Yeah, I'm a Trekkie. Yeah. Ooh, is someone cheering for this? As a child of the 90s, my first Star Trek series was Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you've never seen it, it's about 7 super smart best friends exploring space, facing moral dilemmas, solving science mysteries, and looking good while doing it, obviously. Naturally, because of this show, my entire life, whenever I've heard the term AI or artificial intelligence, I thought about this guy. This is Lieutenant Commander Data, the Enterprise's resident android. He has the breadth of knowledge of a computer, but is sentient and self-aware and always on the side of humankind. He's a loyal member of the crew and everybody's friend. He, like any AI, continues to need human guidance from his captain and learns from his experiences. Why am I talking about Star Trek? Well, pop culture has given AI a bad rap, portraying it pretty negatively. It will be so much more helpful as we approach the coming dawning AI revolution if we think of AI as something helpful to us instead of something that's trying to take over. So no Skynet, no Agent Smith, no Ultron, just our friendly, if imperfect, data. All right, the elephant in the room, or should I say the yellow-eyed android in the room, Gen AI-powered chat. Is this the final frontier of search? As you may have heard, Microsoft and Google have both introduced generative AI conversational features in search, meaning you can chat with AI as part of getting search results. From Microsoft comes the new Bing. Who's heard of the new Bing? Oh, okay. Powered by GPT-4, it launched in February and is currently in open preview. It made a bit of a splash with the New York Times article. Sydney, anyone remember that one? Yeah, oh yes. Per Microsoft, they have over 100 million daily active users, a third of which engage in chat on a daily basis. And on average, they see people are spending 66% more time browsing and engaging with chat than on traditional search. But since launch, the new Bing did not see a significant shift in search market share. Google remains the dominant player in the search space, both in the US and worldwide. Not surprised. Okay, speaking of Google, from Google comes the Search Generative Experience, or SGE, an acronym you're about to hear me say a lot. Who here has heard of SGE? Trick question, Luke mentioned it this morning. Who had heard of it before today? Okay, a few hands, great. It is accessible now via Google's Search Labs if you sign up. It is currently in the experimental phase, and Google is actively updating it and iterating it upon it. What is available now may look very different than what ends up launching widely next year. Okay, so let's talk about how Gen AI-powered search actually works. Like any search, it starts with a user-driven search query. The search engine then uses LLMs, large language models, which we just heard a lot about, plus their existing indexes of the internet to answer the queries. In the chat format, queries can be more conversational. Instead of making separate searches, users can string together questions and follow-up questions. And with the generative AI, context can carry over between those queries. It has the same ranking principles as traditional search. Your website is still the foundation of your discoverability in both traditional search and Gen AI-powered search. No special site tagging is required to appear, at least at this time. And to underscore that last point about ranking principles, Google's ranking systems aim to reward original, high-quality content that demonstrates qualities of what we call EEAT: expertise, experience, authoritativeness, trustworthiness. Simply a website that provides helpful, credible information. Think of it as the opposite of spam. We should already be focused on these principles when creating content for our sites. The results produced by Gen AI-powered search are looking at the same site and for the same quality content, no matter how it's produced. More on that later. So now let's take a deeper dive into Google's SGE. What exactly is the search generative experience? After a user searches, in addition to getting traditional search results, both paid and organic, they will get AI-generated overviews, links to sources within those overviews, the ability to ask follow-up questions where the context will carry over, and for some content like science, the ability to hover over words to get definitions. And an add-on feature in Chrome, you can ask it to produce article summaries for you. Okay, we heard Luke and Christopher name check Google's more famous AI feature. So right now you might be thinking to yourself, is SGE the same as BARD? Great question. No. Both BARD and SGE are AI-powered technologies from Google, but they have different applications. BARD is a large language model chatbot, a tool like ChatGPT. Though it can answer questions, it is not a search engine and does not provide citations or links. As we just discussed, SGE is Google's AI-powered search that involves numerous sources and links, provides summaries, and answers in line with traditional search results. So while BARD is a somewhat similar, related Google AI product, SGE is separate. All right, a few important things to keep in mind. Per Google's own disclaimer, generative AI is experimental, info quality may vary. We're about to see that when we get into a demo. And truth is not fact versus falsehood, but how well it represents the source material. Let that one sink in. This is what Google means when it claims to tune its AI models to be more factual than more creative. It wants to represent the source material accurately, which is what traditional search is already doing, but you'll see when information is presented summarized or in a chat format, it's easy to forget this. Okay. Before we dive into a demo of SGE, I need to shift my nerd gears a moment. Though I love Star Trek, it might not be the best example for arts marketing, so it's time to introduce you to one of my other passions, Moulin Rouge the musical. Yes. All right, so let's see SGE in action, where I will be live narrating. All right, first I go to Google and search for Moulin Rouge Broadway, totally normal thing to do. We get search results that are pretty similar to what we're already seeing. We get paid results. We get organic results. In between, we get the option to generate an AI-powered overview. Let's do it. All right, it's generating, and we get a ton of information about the show. When it opened, a bit about the plot, a bit about the songs featured in the show. Each sentence has this little caret where we get a citation. On the right, we get a bunch of links to sources where it's pulling its information from. More information about the show, I can ask a follow-up question. Now remember, context is going to carry over. So when I ask, what were reviews like, it knows I'm talking about Moulin Rouge Broadway. I still get organic results below the summary. And the overview itself summarizes the information for me, and even breaks it down into topics, technical aspects, music, plot. I still get a bunch of citations over on the right-hand side. Let's see, the show is a postmodern La Boheme on hallucinogens. I'd say it's more of a Traviata, but pretty accurate. Okay, another follow-up question. Where can I get discounted tickets? I can't spend all my money on Moulin Rouge. All right, you may have seen below the overview, we did get a paid result as well as organic below. All right, this is where info quality is going to start to vary. We still get links to sources over on the right-hand side, but some of these summarizations, digital lottery for $30, I wish. This maybe at one time was true, but is not currently true. The digital lottery is in fact $47.50. This overview contradicts itself. And the lottery isn't available on either of these three sites. So a lot to be desired in this result here. But I'm gonna keep asking follow-up questions. Is it unreasonable to see Moulin Rouge 17 times? Let's see, some say Moulin Rouge is a great show for groups, something for everyone. Great choice for fans of the movie. It ignored my question, so rude. But I don't actually need SGE to answer that question. Clearly 17 times is not enough. I will also add that as I was preparing that screen recording, doing the exact same searches and asking the same questions, I would get different answers or have different things highlighted in the overview for me. So that is just a reminder. It is experimental. It is updating. Google is actively testing and learning. So keep that in mind as you play around with it. Okay, I know what you're thinking. With all of this info now displayed on the results page, will SGE replace website traffic? Is Google aiming to keep people in Google and never let them leave? Should we still even invest in SEO and SEM? Will the AI assimilate us and make our distinctiveness its own? Yes, we're back to Star Trek. It's a complex question with a complex answer. I will start by saying no-click searches are already a reality, and they've been on the rise for a while. A 2022 SEMrush study determined that true no-click searches make up 17.3% of mobile searches and 25.6% of desktop searches. A much bigger piece of the no-click search puzzle is query refinement, meaning the searcher didn't find what they were looking for and searched again. An aim of Gen AI-powered searches like SGE is to help prevent the need for as much as refinement, since context carries over between queries. Google is already providing information for searchers directly on the results page with direct answers, people also ask, featured snippets, time, weather, movie times, etc. When I make a totally normal search, like where to watch Star Trek online, it highlights an answer for me. I don't need to click through. SGE isn't changing this necessarily. It's just changing how the information is visually presented, citing multiple sources in one overview and better organizing the information. When I ask it where to watch Star Trek online, it gives me way more info and options to click through than what we saw on traditional search. Google hasn't revealed any data about whether AI overviews are or aren't driving clicks to websites. So while it's likely traffic will be affected when SGE launches widely, we don't know how big an effect it will have yet. It will be a wait and see moment for all of us. Remember, SGE results use Google's existing index and the same ranking principles as traditional search. So it's super important to make sure you're discoverable no matter how people are searching by investing in SEO and SEM, search engine optimization and search engine marketing. So many acronyms. Together, they work to maximize visibility when it matters most, when people are actively looking for you and what you have to offer. Luckily, the same best practices apply here that we're already used to. High-quality landing pages, highly relevant ads, more important now maybe than ever. Provide useful, unique information on those landing pages. Ads should be highly relevant to both the keywords you're bidding on and those landing pages. And of course, a mobile-friendly, easy-to-navigate site. Employing custom ad landing pages will be incredibly helpful, and they're easier than ever to produce now with AI tools. If you're worried about using AI tools for site content, let me comfort you. Quality is more important than how content is produced. That's a Google quote. Meaning it's okay to use AI tools to create content as long as a human is in the loop. While Google is definitely on the lookout for AI-generated spam, as it is with any spam content created strictly to manipulate search rankings, if your content is useful and relevant to what you do, you have nothing to worry about. On the topic of ads, my specialty, if it wasn't already obvious, ads will always be a part of Google search. One of their core beliefs on search is that they will sell ads and nothing more. In an interview about SGE with Wired, Google CEO Sundar Pichai said, "We will have a space for ads in a way that makes sense for users, and particularly on commercial queries." We know that Google's business model relies on ad revenue, so ads will not go away with SGE, and neither will search engine marketing. The way ads currently appear in SGE are exactly as we're used to seeing them. They're still the first thing to appear in the most prominent spot on the results page. They can appear both above and below the AI-generated overview. They do not yet appear within the overviews themselves. However, in the future, ads will likely come to overviews. This example is from Google's presentation at Google Marketing Live this year on how ads might look in SGE. They've said that they will experiment with new ad formats native to SGE that use generative AI to create ads that are customized to every step of the search journey. They expect that these ads will be drawn from existing campaigns and landing pages to serve in SGE, meaning you won't have to create new campaigns and ads to serve here, but of course, that could change. What's next with Gen AI and Google Ads? Well, they didn't forget about us marketers. The conversational experience doesn't end with users, but will be available as AI-assisted campaign creation within Google Ads. This conversational experience is meant to jumpstart campaign creation by combining your expertise with Google AI. With just a landing page and some direction, it can generate ad copy, assets, and images for you. You converse with it to refine the results you're getting, and of course, review and edit it before using it. Also coming is Product Studio. Similar to what Ali just showed us in Meta, you'll be able to create and enhance images with AI directly in Google Ads. As has been a theme throughout this presentation, these are tools that require a human. It needs your expertise in order to work. So, is chat the final frontier of search? As Captain Jean-Luc Picard might say, maybe? Google hasn't released numbers on how many people are currently using SGE, but that number is likely to grow as time goes on and it officially launches in 2024. To the person who asked what AI will look like in a year, we just saw it. Search is going to look like that. What I will leave you with is one thing you can do right now and two things to prioritize as we head into the future. You probably want to get out your phone and take a picture of this one. When you're back at your desk on Monday, sign up for SGE. Start searching and get a feel for the experience. One thing I do want to underscore, you need a personal Gmail account in order to sign up. Google Workspace accounts are not currently eligible. And if you are a completist, you can test out the new Bing. It's in open preview, so anyone who heads to bing.com can use it. Whatever the future holds, your search presence will continue to be vitally important. Strong website content will continue to rise to the top, and using SEO and SEM together improves visibility no matter how people are searching. AI isn't coming, it's here. Make it work for you. Search on and prosper.
Okay, 2 minutes and I'll have you out of here. If everyone starts using AI, a lot of people ask me, how do we as arts marketers stand out in a world supported by AI? Trust. One way to earn trust is to remove all doubt. And so if we want to be the voice of trust, we have to do 4 things. You have to tell what others in our space do not. Is it hard to park at your venue? You gotta tell me. You have to show in a way that others in our space do not. So if I give you a charitable gift, show me how my money helped you. Show me how you spent it. We have to sell in a way that others in our space do not. So this one's my favorite. If I go to your website and I'm trying to accomplish something and I hit a roadblock, and the only way past the roadblock is a message that tells me I have to call the box office, that is the internet equivalent of the middle finger, and I hate it. We can do better. And lastly, we have to be more human with all of our content, and I mean all content, landing page content, our written content on paper, emails. We have to make it personal, and these are fundamentals that we've all heard before, but I think it's really important when we start to talk about how AI supports us in creating content. We have to remember fundamentals that we learned a decade ago about becoming media companies. Real quick. We have to write in the first person. We have to teach like we're sitting with a friend at a coffee shop, and we have to remember to let our voice have some soul. And interact with your audience in real time, address the hard comments on posts, and remember to take the chance and share your institution's actual point of view. Showcase the behind-the-scenes moments. We're really good at this already, but don't forget to show people the challenges and the raw moments. Continue to be master storytellers, craft compelling narratives, and try to make those moments as sticky as you can. Don't just follow the trends, right? We've talked a lot about trends as they relate to TikTok, but also dare to be different and push the envelope and do something in our space that's never been done before. Build and maintain relationships with your followers. Show them that you care about their loyalty and their feedback. I'm thinking about subscribers here. Constantly gather and analyze data about your audience's preferences, how they behave, what their feedback is. Get curious, make them your obsession, think the way they do, talk the way that they do. And love. I know that can be cheesy to some people. I don't think that it is. Love your audience, let them feel it, see it, and sense it, and love the art that you produce. For more than a decade, as a client-facing individual in this company, I have been on the receiving end of your zeal and passion for what you sell. Let that enthusiasm be contagious. And that is how we stand out in a world supported by AI. So what about the pesky robots coming for our jobs? You've all seen this. AI won't replace humans, but humans with AI will replace humans without AI. The CMO of LinkedIn recently said that by 2030, the skills to do a current job are expected to change by 65%. And their recommendation, along with the recommendation of so many others, is for all of us to focus on AI literacy. Learn how it works, start to experiment with it, and the benefits are big gains in productivity and big reductions in the mundane and the drudgery in our day-to-day. And we're not alone. In a July survey, marketers said that the #1 challenge to use AI is simply the lack of knowledge to use it. So we're all in it together. So everywhere we look, everyone says, just start to use it. And so that is my biggest recommendation to you. If you just allowed everything to wash over you, then what I want you to do is start to follow creators who are making it their mission to help us with AI literacy. And over the past year, to satisfy my curiosity, this is the person that has made the biggest difference to me. Her name is Rachel Woods. Her company is called the AI Exchange. I am obsessed with her content on TikTok and LinkedIn, and she has an amazing e-newsletter. If you do anything following this 2-hour-long presentation, follow Rachel, and you will start to learn a lot. You won't regret it. So I'm a techno-optimist. I leave you with this. AI will take your job, and it will give you one that's better. Thank you guys very much.